so I'll just sit here, I guess.
Wow, it's a tiny camera.
Is that all right? Yeah. That's the actual camera, yeah. So my name's Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. That's my dad's name.
Really?
Yeah.
J-E-F-F?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And you is
Annabel.
Annabel. Okay, I heard that.
I'm Mabel.
So, Annabel, Mabel,
Mahlia.
I'm Max. And Max. I have a short memory. I can probably remember about two.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So okay. So yeah. So you guys heard the question. What do you think happens after this life? I can start with that, and I'll just ask questions as we go. So anyone want to kind of start?
I'll let someone else start.
Let me ask you this. I don't know. Are you guys all like friends, work associates?
Friends. We're all really good friends.
Three of us.
We're in a band together, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And is this something that you talk about much or have talked about at all, or?
Well, not so much, but I will say that death has been a big topic recently for me. My grandma passed away last month. She was a Bridgeport lifer, almost. She moved to, she retired to Vegas, and she's from here. My dad's from here, and she died of breast cancer.
Sorry to
really
hear
hard
that.
for the whole family.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's very hard.
And then just a couple days ago, I found out that an old friend of mine had a heroin overdose and passed away as well.
Yeah.
So I guess I haven't been thinking too much about what happens after, but more thinking about how their lives impact mine every day. And I think that might be, for me, what comes after someone's life.
Their legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like there is some kind of existence? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think there's a part of us that outlives our body? You know, like a soul or a spirit or something like that.
I think, I wouldn't say a definite yes or no for that. Because I just don't know. I'm not the one to say. I never grew up religious or anything, so it was never certain for me. But I think just maybe it's not more about what's physical or spiritual, and it's just more about what people's lives mean to you. And I think that's interpreted in a lot of ways, and it's just up to each person what meaning that has for them.
Yeah.
You know?
So definitely the legacy aspect of it.
Yeah, it's, for me at least, it carries a lot of weight knowing that these people impacted so many lives around them.
Yeah.
In positive ways, and that's what's important to me personally. And I guess I do have some hope that whatever part of them would be, their soul is resting somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's not something I really think about in any definite term, because I just don't have that like context for it.
Yeah. And when you say you didn't have a religious upbringing, does that mean like
nothing at all?
Because I'm thinking if you're from Bridgeport, most people are Catholic.
It's very rare for me. So I didn't grow up in Bridgeport. My dad left when we were kids, and we moved out to the suburbs. And my dad, he's Catholic, but he didn't raise us Catholic.
Okay.
And that was a personal choice for him. Also influenced by my mom, who does consider herself an atheist, but she didn't let that influence our upbringing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
What was the question again?
So what
There's a lot of things discussed. So.
Yeah. What do you think happens after we die? After this life? To you personally, and just to people in general, I guess.
I think lots of things happen when you die. I think from a religious perspective, I think, or I guess in a more spiritual sense rather than religious, I think that, the amount of things that happen and the way that, people's like souls are like dispersed or whatever, I think that that sort of thing happens on a level that I can't really ever understand. I think, you know, I don't feel like there's a specific place that, you know, people go to when, you know, after they pass away. But it's more, I think, like, the people's, like, energy is sort of dispersed throughout the universe.
So they wouldn't like exist consciously, like they wouldn't
Yeah,
remember, like they wouldn't have a personality. It was just kind of energy, right? Impersonal.
Yeah,
energy.
I mean, whether or not that sort of, you know, that sort of thing can have a personality or anything resembling a demon, I think, you know, that's sort of impossible to know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I've definitely had a lot of experiences with, you know, with sort of like I've had, like, you know, relatives that have passed away that, you know, I can still, like, feel them really present in my life through, you know, just like weird shit happening in my house and like me like thinking about someone and like something weird happens, like shit like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that sort of like made me believe really strongly in that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know if there's like, I don't really believe in like heaven or hell necessarily. I was raised Jewish, so that has a lot to do with it. But
would you say you believe in God or a higher power?
Yeah,
of some sort?
definitely. Yeah, without a doubt. But I feel like, you know, I don't really believe in anything concrete, but I definitely have faith in like something else.
I'm sorry, do you still consider yourself Jewish or?
You know, I'm Jewish now.
I mean, it's
That
an
makes any
ethnic
sense.
group, or it's
Totally, it's a peoplehood
culture
before it's
right?
religion. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, you know, even if you don't practice Judaism, it's like it's always there.
Yeah.
It's always like present in your life because of the people around you. Which is cool. It's nice to have that sort of community that's always there.
Did you make your bar mitzvah and all that? Or?
I didn't have a bar mitzvah because we, you know, when I was growing up, like going to Hebrew school, it wasn't totally an option. But I, you know, went to temple, like,
Pretty familiar with like the
recognize
stories,
like the Sabbath and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
like when you will say you believe in God, do you believe God is a personality that we can have a relationship with somehow, or more like a impersonal, the Force be with you, Star Wars kind of thing?
I mean, that kind of both. More so the second one in my experience. Like, I don't pray regularly, but when I do, I feel like there's like an element of like asking for like forgiveness or whatever that's just sort of like doesn't really like feel weird to me, despite it, you know, like
You want to come before him humbly, right?
yeah, like it's weird because like generally I think of things like, you know, like logic first and all that, but I don't know, it's like whenever I've like prayed, it's always just kind of like feels like talking, so I don't think that my idea of God is like one thing, or like necessarily, like it's not really like a person with like a personality, but it's not the opposite of that, really.
Yeah. I remember when I first learned to pray, I felt like I was constantly questioning myself. Am I just talking to the air here, or, you know, is God really there, you know?
Yeah.
And big question, you know?
Yeah.
So, how about you?
My parents are not religious, but I'm Filipino, so a lot like I was baptized, I got my first communion, I had all of that. And I feel like I relate to that in a sense more of like a culture rather than a religion.
Yeah.
But Filipinos are really, really, really superstitious. And a big part of our culture, and a big part of the way that I feel like culturally we deal with death is not just through like the Catholic Church, which has helped a lot of my family members deal with death in our family, but through a lot of these superstitions and ghost stories. A lot of like, I don't know, I mean like a lot of our family, like having like lived there before moving here, like they dealt with a lot of war and a lot of violence and a lot of murder. And the way that that is like processed and how we talk about things and processes emotions are usually through like ghost stories. And so I think there have been times in my life where like this question has come up and I've like been in really dark places and felt like there's just nothing. But I feel like I also trust in my elders, and I trust in what they say to me, and like what Max was saying, like I don't really believe in places like heaven and hell, but I do feel like there's a general sense of like feeling protected and watched over by people who have passed, and like and like down the line, like ancestors. I feel like there's like definitely a force behind that exists. I like to think that like somehow in death my soul would be reunited with like the people that I love the most. That maybe we just become one thing, you know? And we're just one thing together. But I feel like the like most concrete like ideas that I have in my head are of like knowing that there's like still kind of like this existence that we're all wrapped up in.
Do you believe in God or a higher power yourself?
Not really. I don't know if I really believe in, like, I don't believe in, like, capital G God. It's interesting, like I said, like, I went to, like, Catholic churches. I have, my uncle's a priest in the Philippines. We were just there a couple years ago, like, celebrating his anniversary of the priesthood, you know? Like, it's interesting that, like, you know, and like I grew up as a little kid, like I prayed every night before I went to bed, you know, and every night before I went to bed, you know, we would, you know, bless everyone in our family, and we would talk about every person that had died, you know. And we did that with my grandma every night, and then when we moved and didn't live with her live near her anymore. Me and my sister eventually stopped doing that, and I feel like, you know, this act of like, you know, we were praying to God and to Jesus and to Mary, but I feel like who I was really talking to, like those things could represent instead like this larger network of people who we loved.
Yeah.
And so I feel like when it comes, like now if I pray, I don't necessarily think about praying to God. I think about praying to my own ancestors and to the force that's behind that. And you know, actually, my room is like filled with religious like stuff now. Like I just got like San Francisco like light up box, you know, and I have like candles in my room and like all this stuff, and like to me that symbolizes something more like cultural and a personal familial connection than it does like anything else. And to me, like I can look at a statue of the Virgin Mary, and to me it can like represent a lot of people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's meaningful to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not like a practicing Catholic, and I don't really like.
Was there a certain point where you went away from Catholicism, and a certain reason for that, or something that?
Not really. I
affected
mean,
you?
it was always a complicated dynamic because it was like I have very, very, very religious people in my family who helped raise me, but my parents themselves are not, and they're very like, but they're very open-minded. They're not saying like, oh, this is not true. They're just like, oh, like, you know, it's okay for you to get raised with this. It's also okay for you to not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think that like, I think that it wasn't so much that like me and my sister were like very Catholic and believed that and then suddenly weren't. I think that we just like the way that we processed our relationship to religion was not in a way of necessarily like consistently worshiping. It was more just something that was like woven into our lives.
You have
And
a very eloquent way of expressing yourself.
oh, thanks.
She's a writer.
I'm a writer. I write about all this, and I write down
Woven
all
into the
the ghost
tapestry of our lives.
But it's because the thing about Catholicism
Are you
in
the
my
songwriter
culture.
for the band too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell.
But for me, it's what's also part of that though is there are all of these indigenous beliefs that are part of that Catholicism, right? Because Catholicism was brought to the Philippines in a way that was colonization and through a lot of violence, but in some ways it has also preserved other stories that are older than that for my people. And so Catholicism can be a way to access that for me, and to interact with that, because it becomes a much more complicated religion as a result. And so like, anyway, so like when it comes to death and stuff, you know, the story isn't just, oh, you know, what I've been told by my relatives a lot, which is, you know, this person is in heaven. The story is also that this person can still interact with you. You know, the story is that this person still keeps coming back. And we have, you know, even just within my own family, our own, like, sense of what that looks like and what that is. And
Do you guys celebrate, like, say, Day of the Dead? You know, like the All Saints Day?
no, we don't really. Well, in the Philippines, it's different. They don't. They really celebrate it as a Saints' Day. They don't celebrate it like Day of the Dead, really. But like, I mean, also though, like with all of that comes demons and all sorts of things that we believe in. You know what I mean? And different creatures and like all of that, and like we have very, very, very superstitious beliefs around death, but like that have nothing to do with the church, but become wrapped up in Catholicism. And I feel like just as far as like dealing with a lot of things that we've dealt with in my family and also like outside of my family, you know, like I feel like I can have a personal relationship to that in a spiritual way.
I guess when I ask, do you believe in God, I'm not necessarily saying do you or any of you believe in the Christian God or the Catholic God. I mean, I could be, but at the same time, I could also just be saying, do you believe in a creator God, you know? And so a creator, you know, like as far as like where did everything come from and what brought us into existence, you know? And so I'm not trying to limit it to just one religion. necessarily.
I don't believe in like a creator God at all. I was raised kind of, well, my dad converted and my mom grew up in like a really hardcore Catholic environment, and I went to Catholic school till I was like in middle school, and I don't know, I don't necessarily believe in capital G God, but I believe in like more like people having power and agency, and also like especially after they die, and how that is dispersed through like familial lines, and how you are like always connected to the people that came before you, and they're ingrained in you and your actions just because they touched your life in some way. But yeah, I don't believe in like a creator, but sometimes I do wonder if I like, and my parents don't practice Catholicism anymore, and I don't really know what their point of view on this is either, but having dealt with like a lot of death or watching that, I think that maybe changed the way I thought about what God is or what that entity provides for you, and I think it's a really personal relationship, and what you want out of it is like, or how you think about it dictates how much you get out of it or how you feel connected to it. And I don't necessarily feel like I like am connected on a personal level to some power, but I think it. Hi, John. I think it.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
Jeff is interviewing.
We're doing an interview.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
he's asking us about stuff.
Yeah.
some deep stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that there's this like larger sense of feeling connected to other people, alive and dead, that is like something that you can't quite reach, but you know is there. And I think that's what like that idea of God is for me, or like some power or like force, you know, that is like meant to like guide you or like be there or show you signs. I believe a lot in signs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We
Talk
definitely.
about signs a lot.
Yeah.
Just like coincidences. And would you guys say you've experienced like the supernatural?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like totally beyond what science could explain.
I had a ghost touch my butt.
So
This is not a joke. I'm
Honestly.
sorry. Not a joke.
I will not be silenced about it.
The ghost probably thought you would, but you wouldn't tell anyone.
Yeah, it was I don't know. My bathroom was haunted, and I literally did like a ritual to get the spirit out of there, and like didn't have any problems with it after that. So like I believe. Yeah,
Was it scary?
it was very frightening.
Yeah.
I also like the ghost like moved like shampoo around in my bathroom and like made it disappear and then like reappear and shit like that. Like, you know, like this was like a no nonsense like ghost ass ghost. You know, like yeah, not a fan. But like I get it. I'd
Yeah.
probably be doing the same thing if I were a ghost.
If you were a ghost, you'd definitely be messing with
There
it.
Yeah, you definitely.
There just like
people.
aren't
Dubious.
there aren't consequences for anything you do if you're a ghost. So it's like there's like a completely
I'm
different
not gonna kill you.
the moral compass just like doesn't really exist. So I
Yeah.
can't say that I would abide by the same laws that I abide by now.
Oh my god.
When that happens, if it
Well,
happens.
I generally hear from all of you, definitely hear kind of a connection as far as like connection to your path, or your ancestors, or your culture. You know, it's interesting that like Christianity it began in the Middle East, which is a very communal society. You know, where like if one person would become a Christian, their whole family would become a Christian. It wasn't such an individual thing. And I think in America here, our emphasis on like individuality has just like made it such an individual thing. And yet when I read the Bible, I see that like we do definitely leave a legacy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. We're good. Thank you.
Definitely see that.
I'll hit them up. I'm gonna hit those guys up. Just give me 1 sec. Gotta make a call.
So, but yeah, so we definitely leave a legacy on our, like, I feel like my faith that I have as a Christian was passed down to me, like through many generations. And I don't want to be the weak link, that doesn't continue on. And
But also you can have, I mean, I don't really believe in the idea of being like a weak link, because I think that like the way you choose to pass that on, or the way you choose to like live a life that is connected to religion is always individual, because you know two people are the same person.
yeah,
So I think like there's also like there can be this room where you don't have to like do things completely the same, or like have to be sharing ideas of religion in the same way.
I think that my grandma, who was a Bridgeport Catholic, would be very happy about the way that I'm living my life. And in fact, she expressed that before she passed away. And she knows that I am not Catholic and I'm not practicing religion. She would not look at me as the ending of generations of religion in her family.
Yeah.
I think that she would be proud of me and what spirituality I have and what that brings to my life, and how I can carry on her legacy in my own way, with spirituality and without.
I think that. Okay, well, my grandma thinks I'm Catholic. My grandma thinks I'm Catholic. My grandma thinks I go to church. But, and so, like, I do feel this pressure to continue something, but for me, it's a pressure to retain our identity. But I feel like the most important thing that has been passed on to me from religion are the good examples of behavior. Because I feel like, and I feel like that also, my dad taught me that. My dad is not religious. He also taught me good behavior. And I feel like with the Catholic part of my family, I'm very lucky because I have really good people in my family who really try to like embody their beliefs in like a righteous manner. You know what I mean? And so like I feel like the lessons that my grandparents have taught me, and that whole side of my family has taught me about just trying to be a good person and being generous. And because like I know what you're saying about like the US, but like I come from a place where like community is like huge.
Yeah.
Like we take care of each other. You know what I mean? Like,
were you born there?
No, I was born here, but like we send back like tons and tons of packages. Like people move here to basically feed the people who still live there.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we, my grandpa, he's a doctor. He goes back and he does free surgeries for there every year, and it's with a Catholic mission. You know what I mean? And so I feel like I learned a lot about like the lessons that got passed down about like community and about like taking care of people. I feel like those are things that like I can carry on that might have religious teachings behind them, but the most important thing is about like the way that you live your life, because I could just take all the Catholic stuff and then act horrible.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like that's not really what they're trying to get at, And I think also like when it comes to like religion and stuff, I think that there are like things they're trying to teach you about how to be able to deal with the world that you live in and deal with people dying, and how to reconcile with that. And I feel like they've taught me things that have helped me deal with that and helped me not feel so alone without, and I don't even necessarily believe in a God, but I've learned other ways to be able to deal with things. And I also feel like it's interesting that you bring that up too, though, because I feel like, a lot of people really, especially here, want to deal with just like the concrete and like not really talk about supernatural things. But I feel like because of like the way that I was told stories growing up, it really impacted my perception on reality and blurred a lot of the lines that exist between supernatural or real and life and death. It kind of puts you in this almost like gray area of having an understanding of all of those things.
I know a lot of people I talk to really feel like there has to be a black and white view of, say, science and religion, you know? And what I have told a lot of people is the only way science can exist is if we live in an ordered universe where when you conduct experiments, things are going to happen the same way every time. You know, like that's what science is. It's like discovering the patterns and the order in this universe. And so I would, you know, like I as a believer in God would say God is the orderer, you know. He provided order, and so the very fact that we can even have science is evidence that there was someone putting it all together in an ordered way, you know.
A lot of the great physicists were actually very religious and spiritual people. And that's kind of something I bring up when people are very black and white in that direction, especially where they believe that science is the only concrete thing there. It's like, well, what do you think science is? Science, the only reason it exists is because there aren't answers for everything. So these people want answers to as much as they can get, and they know that every question is going to bring up another question, but they keep doing it anyway. And why would they do that if they didn't have a sense that there was something great that was bringing us all here, you know? And not all of them said there is a God. Not all of them were Christians. But most of them, almost all of them, were very, very spiritual people. And most philosophy of science is, if you read it, it's actually very spiritual and religious. It doesn't read as concrete and fact and there is no God. Science is in no way atheist. So when people try to bring science into this argument of is there or is there not a God, they're contradicting themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like a devout religious person, but I just think that is insane for people to say there is no God because of science. It's like, well, if you know anything about science and a great physicist, you would know that you're just wrong. You know?
It's not too mutually exclusive. But
Yeah.
One thing that I wasn't aware of but have become aware of recently is the connection between magic and science.
Sure, yeah.
And that magic really didn't become prominent until people started to feel like they can control the universe along with science. And at a point when science wasn't as well developed,
right,
science and magic were kind of like intertwined.
Yeah.
Where before that it was like, no, we don't control the universe, God does, you know?
Right.
Or some spirit, some higher power.
Sure.
But so science, so magic is not necessarily religious. It's man's attempt to kind of like be God, you know,
I love magic.
to kind of control things around us. And I don't know if you guys are aware that, you know, like one of the original temptation, you know, like the whole thing of Adam and Eve and they're tempted in the garden was, if you eat from this tree that, you know, God said that you shouldn't eat from. He didn't say all that, but if you eat from it, you will be like God, knowing good from evil. So the temptation, the original temptation was, we can be our own gods, you know? And I see that a lot. It's like,
well, that's a power problem.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
Sounds like you got a
thinking
funky
about-
apple.
Yeah, it
You got a
sounds like
funky
you're.
apple tree that you need to cut down.
That argument sounds like you
That's what I think.
you have a problem with power,
Yeah.
and you want that in a way that's unhealthy. And I think a lot of people in religion can view like the connection of religion and politics as like this like needing to have like the most power and like forcing religion onto other people, and we think about like colonialism and like the way Catholicism is tied to that, which I think is not good. and I think that religion should be a lot more like abstracted than the way it's presented in like a very traditional way a lot of the times.
And I think that might be one of the biggest thing that kind of has always steered me away from it on my own path, is the fact that with all of the ideas and concepts brought up in the Bible that I do agree with and you know, appreciate, there are also some that I don't, and like there's also this, God, now I went on a tangent, I don't know what I was saying.
We were talking about power and politics and people
Right.
wanting to control others.
Yeah, and that's part of it. There's always been there have always been power and politics and religion, and that's shown throughout history. And that can be something very negative. And it doesn't, I don't think it reflects on religion entirely whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it is something that's kind of steered me away.
Yeah.
I think there's always this, okay, so there's like religion as an institution, and then religion as a practice.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, not just me, but like a lot of people get steered away from religion as an institution, which will always be imperfect because we have people running it. You know what I mean? There will always be issues when imperfect people are running
That's
an
good to
institution.
recognize that.
And
Because otherwise we have really high expectations.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
And
doesn't
so-
mean,
I have an understanding of that, and so obviously I have a lot of institutional problems with religion, but like I said, like I've had good examples of religion in my life too, you know, and I think that using it as like a method of being able to like honor people who you loved is great. And I think that a lot of times, just like personally growing up, like there was a lot we wouldn't talk about. There's a lot we refused to talk about, and there were names that we wouldn't say after somebody died. And instead, there was another way to be able to process those feelings that allowed people to actually be able to mourn when we couldn't bring ourselves to do it verbally with each other. You know? And
I appreciate you guys' openness to talking about this. I know
Yeah,
it's
of course.
not always easy.
Yeah. We talk about
We talk about
all the time. Yeah.
One of the things, so like the church I go to, I mean, it's a Bible believing, I guess you'd say, conservative, evangelical church. I mean, I know there's a lot of baggage with those terms, but I do believe, like, for me as a Christian, like I've been a Christian since I don't know how old are you guys, like 20s?
20s.
Like early 20s?
well, you're 19.
You're 19.
I'm 20, about to be 21.
Yeah, like I was 17 when I became a Christian, and came from a Lutheran background, but I didn't really understand what it was all about, you know?
Sure.
I kind of like grew up in the Lutheran church, and I'm not trying to down the Lutheran church at all, but it's more me. It was like, why did I go to church? I just totally missed what they were saying, you know? Like, I knew about all these people in the Bible, Moses and Joseph and David and Paul and Jesus and Peter, and I didn't realize it was all about Jesus. Like, all the other people exist to either predict his coming or to teach about what he taught. So I kind of missed the idea that God has come in the flesh and his name is Jesus, you know, the central message of the Bible. And so I was really grateful that I did have Christians come into my life and talk to me and kind of put it in a way that I could understand, and it was through a lot of conversations, you know. So I see the value of conversations. At the same time, I really so I've gotten in a lot of these conversations over the years and realized I can't change anyone's mind, you know, but that doesn't mean don't have the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I feel free. I believe, I don't know if you guys are aware of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, the whole idea that God is working in kind of like, I don't even know how to say it, invisible ways. So it's like if anyone was to, you know, like become a Christian in any situation, it's a work of God. It's a miracle of God to me. And it's a miracle that happened in my heart, and it would be a miracle in anyone's heart. And so I just feel like it's important to have the conversations, and so that frees me up to be able to have these kind of conversations and not. I don't feel like I'm forcing anyone to believe anything, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's just not possible to do that anyway.
Honestly, just having this conversation for me personally has been very healing to be able to talk about it. Because I've been going through a really hard time. And
that sounds like,
it's nice to just let some stuff out about, you know, some stuff that's just kind of spinning around in my mind about these people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you mentioned you had some people that you lost to.
Yeah.
So you dealt with some death.
Yeah, I've dealt with and seen a lot of death and near-death experiences in my life. And I don't know. This is something I think about a lot because the way I choose to like live through or think about death is to like make sure that you are like constantly like loving and supporting the people who are around you and reminding yourself of the importance of the people that came before you and how all those things like influence you every day. And I guess just being more aware of like how we let ourselves move through each day and the ways in which people influence us, both that we are like conscious of and that happen in like ways we can't understand.
Yeah.
And just like being as aware and like understanding or appreciative of that in the ways that like I know I can.
Yeah. I know death can make us more appreciative of life just because we realize how fragile it is and how precious it is. If we think this life is all there is, I think we can really appreciate it. But also, I don't know if you guys ever thought of this, like if we exist, like the Bible says God has put eternity in our hearts. In other words, like we're made in God's image. God is eternal. He's made us eternal also. And so we're going to have this ongoing relationship with God, you know, according to the Bible, you know, in a right relationship with our Creator or not. That's the biblical perspective. And so if, you know, like if there's an eternity awaiting us after we die, we're going to be there a lot longer than here, you know?
Yeah.
And so if
Seems kind of long.
yeah. So to me, it's like, well, it seems long, but the more I come in, like the more I learn about this universe, you know, and what scientists are learning, how big it is and how small it is, you know, as far as micro universe and everything, the more I'm appreciative of who made it. So it's like I feel like an eternity wouldn't be long enough to get to know the God of this universe. So I don't think it's going to be a boring place, you know?
Better not be.
It is.
Right.
It also depends on what your
Better be
idea
like
of like
slides.
eternity is, or the way that's manifested. And
Yeah, I don't
think-
necessarily like if you're facing eternity, what good is time? Are we really going to be measuring time anymore?
And
You know?
also like the way I think eternity exists in people and it's spread throughout people who are living now. You know, I think that's like a huge part of what the idea of eternity is for me, because you are like always impacted by the people who have come before you and
Yeah.
what they have like told the people who are alive now that are older. Just because you're like literally physically connected.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely a part of it. before I leave, so I'm, like I say, a conservative Christian, believe in the Bible. I'm wondering, and I'm open to any question that you guys would have for me. Like, to be honest, so I make the videos because a lot of Christians are afraid of offending anyone, or like bringing up the subject, or they're just afraid to talk about it. And I'm trying to encourage people not to be afraid. These are good conversations we can have. So, but at the same time, like, would you guys have any questions you can think of, like for a guy like me who's willing to talk about it?
I don't have a question, but I do have something I would want to say to everyone.
Sure.
I just want to say, you'll be surprised how many people will openly and willingly offer you love, even if they look different than you or believe something different from you. And I think that it's important to have a willingness and an openness to receive that, and also to offer that back.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Amen.
Amen.
Should we end on that?
Hell yeah.
Sure.
All right. So, and I'm gonna turn this off, but I'm gonna say a quick prayer for you guys, if you don't mind. So
Okay.
I'll turn it off first, though.
Okay.
For some reason, I just don't think it's right to video people praying. I don't know.
It's very intimate.
Yeah.
It's very, very intimate.
It's kind of like